Welcome to the European Training Foundation's Learning Connect live conversation. These live conversations cover a range of topics in education and training. And because we're an international organisation, we're also concerned with mobility and migration. People move countries for a variety of reasons. It can be to find work, to study, to join family. But in other situations, people are compelled to leave for a variety of reasons and circumstances, including climate change and tragically war. The focus of today's conversation is how the ETF is working to support Ukrainians who have been forced to flee the country because of the Russian military aggression. And I would like to say at this time, that on behalf of everybody at ETF, we express our fullest and deepest sympathy and support to all of Ukraine and all Ukrainians at this very difficult time. Joining us today for this very important conversation are Iryna Yuryeva, who has been collaborating with the ETF since the beginning of the year. We also have Iryna Sopilniak, who is a Ukrainian who has been forced to leave Ukraine and is currently in Germany, and Michael Graham, an expert at the European Training Foundation, who works specifically in qualifications and recognition. So welcome, colleagues, to you all. And so before we get started, I'd like to invite everybody who is following us live to let us know where you're following us from. And also, please do get involved. Please do use the chat to share any comments and thoughts, and also to post any questions that you'd like any of our guests to answer. So, to set the scene for today's conversation, the Russian military aggression has forced nearly 8 million Ukrainians to leave the country. NATO, the EU, the UN, and other international organizations are currently providing financial, military, and humanitarian assistance. The ETF has a very long history of working with Ukraine in issues of education and training, and we've covered topics such as career guidance, teacher training, and vocational education and qualifications. But shortly after the beginning of the invasion, the European Commission asked us to create a very dedicated portal to have on the ETF website. The ETF calls this the Ukrainian Resource Hub. And so, Michael, I'm going to start with you, if I may. Could you tell us a little bit about the Ukrainian Resource Hub, what it is and what it does, and why was it necessary?
Thank you, Susie. Hello to everybody watching. Yes, as Susie said, ETF established the Resource Hub at the request of the European Commission shortly after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Our field is education and training, in particular lifelong learning and vocational education and training. So we were asked to set up a resource which would help Ukrainians who were forced to flee their country because of the war. Ukrainians coming to the European Union. As our field is education and training, we agree to provide information on how Ukrainians living in the European Union now, can access education and training at all levels, from kindergarten to primary to secondary to vocational and higher education, how they can find out about employment, and how they can seek career advice, and also how they can have their qualifications recognized. I should emphasize the information is available in both Ukrainian and English. That when we set it up, as Susie said, at the request of the Commission, the EU invoked emergency legislation allowing Ukrainians to reside and work and study in the European Union and European Economic Area countries. So there is information about education and training for young people in particular, but also about for older people and adults. And largely our site consists of links and sources of information to ministry sites, employment agency sites, and places where people can find information about having their qualifications recognized.
Okay.
we know that our contribution is modest compared to these very fundamental needs that Ukrainians have for more material support and the support they needed at the beginning of the war. It's our modest contribution, but our field is education and training, so we are contributing on behalf of the European Union.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Just to say, we do have a little bit of problem with the sound at the moment, so we're going to try and rectify that. One thing I'd like to say before I come and move on to a question for you, Iryna, is just before the conversation started, we had quite a few comments from our followers who raised the topic of the discussion, the use of the word refugees or migrants. And it's a very valid point, and we recognize that there is a distinction, but we just wanted to say that for the purposes of today's conversation, we really want to focus on the resource being a tool that is open for everybody, whatever the reason is that they left Ukraine. So, Iryna, if I can come, we've heard from Michael there about, what the resource hub is. It's a pragmatic tool. It's there to help Ukrainians find information about education, training, and employment opportunities in member states. I'm going to ask you, because you've been very much closely involved in the hub, you are the hub's manager, and so I will ask you, how do people access the site and how do they actually use it? So just before you answer, Iryna, I'm just going to ask our colleagues if they can just put onto the screen here the slide. This is a slide of accessing how you can access the site from the ETF website. The address is there in the chat, and on the homepage you will find the Ukrainian flags, and then you can click on to enter the resource. So Iryna, can you tell us a little bit more about it, please?
Hello, everybody. Happy to talk to you, and it's excellent that we can offer this support and this tool to two different audiences. The first audience, the group of audience, as Michael mentioned, this is the Ukrainians who have to leave the country and now are members of the European Union. And they come to our website, to the Ukrainian Resource Hub from different sources. This is the direct entry, those who know the link. This is the reference from the partnering organizations who place information about this resource hub on their websites, on their social medias. Also, this is people who come from the different pages and different resources of the European Training Foundation, who use it for different purposes, and so get to know about this resource. And also, this is the page of the European Union, European Commission, which helps people to provide information for any reasons and for any support for those who flee Ukraine. So we are now in the introductory page, and you can see two sections. Now, if you are a Ukrainian and you need some help on information about how to continue your education, whether this is primary education or vocational or university, or if you want to find a job. So every set of needs or steps you need to get to adaptation and find a job in the hosting country of the European Union, you click here, are you a Ukrainian citizen? And you will have the information in two languages. So you have the selection of two languages, either Ukrainian or English. And then you get to different topics, the topics that people might need, as we mentioned. This is education, this is language training, this is recognition of qualifications, how you can have your experience or diploma recognized, which is very important in the new life. Or this is the resources in Ukrainian for kids or for adolescents or adults. And then you choose your country. So for the convenience of the users, our hub information is divided by the countries. So you say, for example, Germany, and you go to the links for specific topic, for example, higher education, and go there and find the link as a starting point on information you might need in your further journey.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Iryna. That's really interesting. And hopefully, already we will have reached out to a few more people who might not have known about the site. Ira, if I can come to you, we've heard about people who've created the site, made the site. We'd love to hear from you as someone who's used the site. Again, thank you very much for being with us today. We express our heartfelt wishes to you and your family and your fellow countrymen who are spread across different European member states at the moment. So thanks very much for taking the time. I'm sure everybody really wants to hear what your experience has been. So can you tell us, how did you hear about the hub and how have you used it?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Hello, everyone, and I'm glad to share my experience in using the website. So first of all, I would like to say that one of my friends who also moved to the European Union because of the Russian war in Ukraine, she has sent me a link to the website of the European Training Foundation. I spent some time reading the website and then found free online sources to learn basic German language because I moved to Germany and my learning was exactly what I needed. Yeah, and then I also didn't expect to discover information about diploma recognition, but I found it on the website. Then I contacted a conference der Kultusminister. This is an organization that helps me to understand the process, yeah, and to prove the information from the website, which I found. Then also I got to know that my specialty, I am ecologist. Yeah, so my specialty belongs to unregulated professions, which means that for me this process of diploma recognition is not as complicated, like for example for doctors or teachers. So I'm lucky.
Yeah. Okay, so you found it very useful. You found it very hands-on and very helpful for you at the beginning.
Yeah, true.
And so, Iryna, we heard there how Ira came to hear about the site through a friend sending her the link. What about other people who might not have contacts in that way? How are we going about promoting the resource hub to the wider community?
Promotion is very important for any site, and we live in the world of the social media, and especially for young people, this is very important. So we decided that we should go with advertisement, with some information about the hub in the social media, first of all, of the European Training Foundation, and also, as I mentioned, about partnering organizations or those organizations who are willing to put the information about the hub on their websites. For example, the European University Association, so they put information about the hub on their social media. We also mention the hub and its functionality in the ETF meetings, in all the word of the mouth, and also in specialized campaigns of the ETF. Back in September, for example, there was a communication campaign about the teachers. So we combined the information about the hub with the stories about two teachers. One back in Ukraine in the vocational school, who actually shared her experience from the first day of the war and how she keeps the educational process with the students. And the second, how she supports and teaches the language training in Germany for Ukrainian refugees. So all the ways, and also we found out that information in messengers chat like Viber and Telegram is very important for people for Ukrainian people in different countries. It's customized by the countries, so we plan to, and we hope that the information about the hub and its functions and opportunities will be available there.
Okay, so very integrated. We used all contacts and lots of international collaborations to share the message on various sites in various ways. Good to hear. Do we have an idea of how many people have used the site since it was started in March?
Yes, we had the statistics analysis, and for now we know that up to date it's more than 16,000 of people from different countries.
Really good reach. And do we know who these people are? Do we know if it's mainly more younger people looking for educational opportunities or people looking for work? Do we have an idea of who they are and where they're contacting us from?
I would say these are different people, and we also have the statistics, and they have the request actually from the people. And I didn't mention this about the functions that people cannot find information on the hub. They can email us. So we have information also from this request. So our audience is very diverse. We have mothers of kids who would like to put them into school in different countries, or how to transfer from the school to the university in different countries. Or we have males or females from Ukraine who are interested in opportunities to study in the European Union. Or we have people of, they usually say about their age, who would like to find employment in Ukraine. So opportunity is diverse and geography is diverse, but definitely we can say that Germany is on the top of the unique visitors for the hubs. And this is not surprising. Because according to the statistics, Poland and Germany host the most of Ukrainian refugees. But we also have a lot of visitors. The second place is from Ukraine. And then Poland, of course, and Czech Republic. Right. So geographically, this is it. And topically, this is information and requests for how to enter university and schools in the European Union, how to find a job, and of course, recognition of qualifications.
Great. Well, we're going to come on to talk a little bit more about recognition of qualifications, because that's obviously a very important aspect. Michael, if I can just come to you first of all, the resource hub in itself is really different type of work to what the ETF usually does, isn't it?
I mean, typically we work, let's say, longer term on this kind of system building. We work with actors such as government ministries, quality assurance and qualifications agencies, umbrella bodies such as employer organizations. And we carry out studies and surveys. We look at the progress of countries in developing their education and training systems. We provide comment and advice. This time, however, we're providing an information service which is accessible to the general public, albeit in particular circumstances in this case. So yes, it's unusual for us. It's a, let's say, an information source that should be of help to individuals. Normally, as I said, we work at this more system or institutional level.
Yeah. Okay. So Iryna, can I come back to you to ask? We had a look at how Ukrainians as individuals can access the site and get information about training and education opportunities. But there is a second side to the site, isn't there?
Yes, as we have seen in our introductory page of the hub, we have the second section with the question, are you from EU? And this is actually the section where you can transfer to the information which is targeted at the employers, at the offices, at the educational institutions of the schools, university, education agencies, qualification agencies in the host countries. And this is for them to better understand the Ukrainian system of education, system of qualifications, to find the database of diplomas and certificates about training. This is to know about what educational or standardized curricula we have in Ukraine, to better understand who will be, what people they will be taking for job, or what else is needed, and how to better understand the system. But also, this section has information for the NGOs, for educational agencies in the hosting countries, to better understand what the European Union support is available for initiatives if they support Ukrainians in employment or studies. And also there is a repository of guidelines, reports related to adaptation and integration of Ukrainian people into European Union market of jobs and employment.
Okay, because the integration aspect is very important. I wonder if you have any understanding or any information as to whether people have found it difficult to get their qualifications recognized, if they have had difficulty accessing the education and training opportunities.
From what I heard, from what I know, from my colleagues, from those visitors of the hub I communicated with, first of all, people have to recognize, I mean, Ukrainian people who move to the European Union countries, they have to understand that the system of education and qualifications works differently. So they should understand this. And of course, another issue is the language training.
Yeah.
This is to better integrate, and this is they should start with. The third, of course, is information as a starting point, and we can provide this with the hub. But a lot of people require support along the whole way of the process, from the point when they start until they find is a job or start studying, because they need to build the trajectory, and very often they require or they seek for guidance and support along the whole way.
Right. Okay.
This is
Thank you, Iryna. Iryna, if I can come to you for a minute, I mean, do you have an understanding? Do you think the general experience of Ukrainians finding themselves in European member states, has it been positive? What has their experience been?
Okay, I would I would try to answer this question.
Yes.
So I'm sure that for every Ukrainian, it was a great stress. Yeah, because everyone believed that he or she was leaving the country for a week or two maximum, like 2 months maximum, I mean. Yeah, so they left not only of their own free will, but because of the war in their country, in my country, right? So the future is unknown, and because of that, it's difficult to make any plans. Yeah, it's hard. But having access to the information about how to find a job, how to learn the new language, how to make a diploma recognition, planning is much easier, and it gives confidence that it's possible to find your place in a foreign country. Yeah.
Okay. And as someone who's used the site, obviously you know it, I would say, quite well now. Did you find it easy to navigate? Would there be any changes that you would make or suggest to maybe help others?
Okay. Firstly, I would like to say that the website has a huge amount of useful information. Yeah, and it can really be called like a hub. Yeah, so it is important that as many people as possible know about this website. Yeah, what I would like to change or add, maybe you can add more visuals or icons, for easier exploration and navigation of the website, because people, we know that many people, they are like visual, it will be helpful. And also maybe provide brief explanation that the link is about. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And also, I suppose maybe having something more visual could help from a linguistic point of view. Iryna, are we collecting feedback from other users? We've heard from Iryna there, but is there an opportunity for ongoing development, ongoing improvements?
Yes, we definitely started trying to get feedback as much as possible. And I encourage everybody who will be going to our hub to scroll down the page and see a very brief feedback and saying us whether it was possible to find the information a visitor needs, and if not, what kind of information is still needed. so that we know what to improve, what to add. I definitely agree with Iryna that it would be good to have more easier navigation and more visuals, as we have the target audience as mostly still young people. Yeah. And we plan, if it's possible, it will be to get a short survey from the users of the hub to see more who they are and what their needs is, further needs, even after visiting our website.
Okay, well, this seems a good opportunity to welcome everybody as well who's following us online. Thank you for your comments. And also, if anybody following us would like to give some feedback, maybe as to their experience of using the hub and any other suggestions, please do use the chat. Put your comments in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Michael, this seems a good opportunity to widen the discussion a little bit so that we could talk about migration and also the importance of qualification recognition more widely. What can we do? What can be done to help people who leave their original countries to find themselves in a new country to have their qualifications recognized?
Yeah, I mean, this issue of fair recognition of people's skills and their qualifications and their knowledge is I think a near universal one. We find it in our work with ETF. My colleagues who work in migration and skills needs find this in the studies that they conduct of people who move from one country to another. It's, you know, they are often underemployed. They may find work but below their skill and knowledge level, or not the kind of career that they wish to pursue. There's this kind of mismatch, or sometimes brain waste. I mean, it's not unique to the European Union, of course. It's something that we find, you know, as I said, in many countries and jurisdictions.
Yeah, and what can we do to address these problems then? Are there tool? What can be done?
Well, it has become a priority for the European Union. The President of the Commission, Ms. von der Leyen, gave a speech recently, the State of the Union, in which she talked about the need to recognise qualifications presented by migrants into the European Union, migrants coming from third countries. I mean, one reason is which Iryna referred to earlier, that receiving countries don't always understand the qualifications that are presented to them. This applies in particular in vocational education and training, which is ETF's particular field. In higher education, the qualifications are more alike higher education systems across Europe and its neighborhood, are more alike because many countries cooperate together in the so-called Bologna process in education. Ukraine is a member, Azerbaijan is a member.
Yeah.
But for vocational qualifications, they are, or they should be, more oriented or geared towards the economic needs, the labour market needs of a particular country, and therefore the qualifications can be quite specific, and therefore to the country, and therefore more difficult for receiving countries to understand. And higher education also has specialised centres. Academic recognition centres which are linked across Europe and many of its neighbouring countries, and so they can evaluate credentials, and they have a network. ETF is trying to support those organisations and actors which are qualification recognition centres in vocational education training. We've just begun a project which is quite long term, but we're beginning to look at, you know, who deals with vocational education and qualifications. So, for example, if somebody wishes to move from one of our partner countries into the European Union, in future we hope it will be easier for their qualifications to be accepted. I mean, that's our particular contribution. But of course, the Commission are also looking at these, let's say, more strategic options, including the new talent partnerships, which are agreements between single countries outside the European Union and perhaps, you know, a small cluster of member states, where they will try to address the skill mismatches and try to look more carefully at the qualifications of the people they're receiving, and try to match this skill to demand better.
Okay.
If I can say a bit more, Ukraine, as I said earlier, it's now a candidate country. So Ukraine will begin to, already has a lot of elements of its education and training system which are compatible with those of the European Union, and they will in time absorb the EU's legal corpus, including where education and training has let's say legal regulation in certain professions, such as medicine, and there you'll see that there will be eventually easier and then automatic recognition in certain limited professions, as there is now across the European Union.
Okay. I'm just going to come in here because we're actually, one of the main objectives of this conversation today was to raise awareness of the hub. We want as many people, Ukrainians, to be able to access it as possible to help them. And so we're getting quite a few comments about this is the first time they've heard about the hub. So this is exactly what we wanted to do. This is why we wanted to have this conversation. So thank you, everybody, again, for feeding that back. It's good to know that we're reaching out to more people. Michael, just following up on one other thing that we talked about there, you mentioned, I think we were talking about the skills, the newly acquired skills that people get when they, hopefully from accessing the hub, that it takes them into opportunities of employment and training. Can we hope that when people do return to Ukraine, that these skills, these newly acquired skills, are going to be able to be recognized? Is there some kind of framework that is going to aid that process of recognition the other way? Yeah,
it is something that will have particular importance to Ukrainians immediately, and depending on when they can return. But it's also a more general problem. Migrants, they arrive in the European Union from another country, they work, they study, they may acquire qualifications, and when they return home to their country of origin outside the European Union, sometimes their home country doesn't recognize the new qualification they've obtained, but they may have skills which are not formally certified, and there it helps if the country has a system to validate that learning acquired at work, for example, so that they can be awarded a formal qualification. Ukraine is developing a system of, it's called validation of non-formal, informal learning. I mean, everybody has skills and competences, everyone listening, watching here, which are not, validated or confirmed in a formal certificate. But in some cases, it can be important to have those skills recognized in the shape of a formal certificate or qualification. Yeah. Ukraine's already awarded some qualifications in that way, but most countries, even in the European Union, they do not have very, let's say, advanced systems yet, which have high numbers of people coming into the system for that validation. So there are two things: the recognition of the qualifications that people acquire outside their country, which they then show when they return home. That needs to be improved. And then secondly, when they have a skill, but it doesn't have a formal attestation from a qualification. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to mention we've got welcome to people who are following us from Macedonia today and also from Luxembourg. Thank you very much. It's great to have you with us. Ira, if I could ask you a sort of a last question, I suppose a piece of advice really from your experience. Has been a very unique experience for you personally, but what advice would you be able to share with Ukrainians who in the audience who are following us today about how they can maximize the opportunities of study and training, in their European host country? What could they do?
I guess, first of all, you should be proactive. Be sure that the host country is willing to help you. Also, make a research and explore the information from different sources, for example, websites, chats, social media, and of course, do not hesitate to ask. Yeah, this is my advice.
Asking for support, reaching out, yes, getting the network to support everybody. Michael, one last question for you, if I may, and also Iryna. You've obviously both been very much involved in the development of the site. This site was made with a very specific purpose in mind. Do we have a long-term vision for this site? Is it something which could be adapted to support our activities with Ukraine in the future? Michael, maybe first to you.
Yeah, I mean, we have a long-standing relationship with Ukraine in education and training. We've been active in areas such as work-based learning, qualifications, quality assurance, and governance. Much of the range of topics that ETF typically addresses. Of course, this site was set up, let's say, in particular circumstances, a war, an emergency. But we will retain some of the links. We won't retain it indefinitely in its current form, but there is information there, resources, tools that we can use to reach more people and perhaps better work with Ukraine in particular in future. It will have let's say, there'll be lessons learned, particularly from the feedback which we get, which can be useful. Yeah.
Iryna, do you have any final comments about how the resource hub may be used or could be used in the future?
As a Ukrainian, I do agree that this is very important. The starting information is important, and the war unfortunately continues. So we might have more people who would be fleeing for resource and time to Ukraine, which means we might need more promotion and see to get this information ready to more people. Of course, it needs more information if it appears or if something appears. So spreading the word about the hub, making it even more functional, and provide for people who have heard about it, just not hesitate to ask, as Ira mentioned, and we will try to support you with not only information, but some advice on how to continue from the starting point.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'd like to say thank you to all of you who have participated today. Thank you for giving us your time and your expertise and your experience, Ira and Iryna. I'd also like to thank everybody who has followed us at home and participated in this conversation. If we've reached new users, that for us is a real success. We want as many people as possible to see what resources are available, and for people who are living in countries outside of Ukraine to be able to see what opportunities and support there is for them. So thank you very much. Thank you to our producers today, Maria and Dominique, very helpful, made this possible. And please do continue to follow ETF on our Learning Live Connects. The next conversation will be in January, where we'll be talking about inclusion. Thank you.